Early adversity may quietly rewire the brain's reward pathways, but where and when you work may shape mental health just as powerfully. Today we are examining 4 recent studies that connect childhood trauma to the ability to feel pleasure, remote work to well-being, cannabis use to the timing of psychosis, and unstable weekly work hours to physical and mental health. The common thread is control. Control over your environment, your schedule, and the stability of your daily life. Our first story starts in the brain. Researchers at Temple University and the University of Oregon wanted to know whether childhood trauma is linked to anhedonia, a reduced ability to feel pleasure or motivation from rewards. Anhedonia can show up as losing interest in hobbies, social contact, or goals that used to feel rewarding. They surveyed a large cohort of people about childhood trauma and their current experience of pleasure. Then used fMRI to look at how the hippocampus interacts with motivation-related brain regions. The hippocampus is often discussed as a memory structure, but this work is among the first to connect it to apathetic behavior in humans. People who reported childhood trauma and also showed disrupted hippocampus pathways experienced more anhedonia than people with childhood trauma, but no such disruption. That distinction is important because trauma alone was not the entire story. The brain pathway pattern appeared to help explain who developed more severe loss of enjoyment. The researchers suggest that childhood trauma interacts with disrupted motivation-related pathways to contribute to the onset of anhedonia. This is an association, not proof that trauma directly causes brain changes, or that brain changes directly cause anhedonia. Childhood trauma was measured by self-report, and memories can be incomplete or influenced by current mood. The release also does not provide an exact sample size or establish whether the hippocampal differences came before or after the symptoms. Still, the finding matters because it shifts attention from memory alone to motivation and reward. It raises the possibility that treatments aimed at the hippocampus could one day increase pleasure for people with trauma histories. The team hopes to identify a hippocampal target and continue exploring the relationship between memory and anhedonia. A different kind of daily environment also appears to shape well-being. In a study of 7,704 employees at a large healthcare organization, fully remote workers reported the highest levels of well-being, while fully on-site workers reported the lowest. Hybrid employees fell in between. That pattern surprised even the researchers, who had expected hybrid arrangements to offer the best of both worlds. The study also found little evidence that remote workers felt less connected to colleagues or workplace culture. When employees were asked to describe their organization's culture in a few words, remote workers were slightly more likely than hybrid or on-site peers to use words associated with teamwork, inclusion, and support. The researchers also looked at turnover 1 year after the survey. Higher well-being was associated with a lower likelihood of leaving, but work location itself was not a strong direct predictor of turnover. Instead, remote work was associated with higher well-being, and that higher well-being was in turn associated with lower turnover. The study did not explore exactly why remote workers reported higher well-being, but the authors point to a growing body of research on autonomy and flexibility. Remote workers often have more control over their environment and daily schedule, and they avoid stressors such as commuting, arranging childcare, or managing pet care logistics. The findings do not mean every company must go fully remote. Face-to-face interaction can still help coworkers build relationships, especially early in a career. One author noted that remote work works better after people know one another. This study has real limitations. The data came from one healthcare organization. The well-being measures were self-reported, and people who chose remote work may differ from people who did not. But the study offers a useful caution against return-to-office mandates that overlook employee well-being and treat physical presence as a proxy for connection. Mental health is also shaped by substances, and a new meta-analysis from Australian researchers adds a striking detail to the cannabis and psychosis story. Psychosis refers to feeling disconnected from reality and struggling to distinguish what is real from what is not. The article notes that about 3 among people in their 30s who developed psychosis, cannabis users experienced symptoms more than 6 years earlier on average than non-users. Among people in their early 20s, the gap was about 1.6 years. And for people under 20, the study found no evidence of earlier onset. That is not what many researchers expected. It had been widely assumed that earlier onset mostly affected young people. Instead, the authors suggest harm may be cumulative, with ongoing cannabis exposure potentially lowering the threshold for when symptoms first appear later in life. This does not mean young people are safe. The study measures one outcome, the timing of psychosis onset, and other evidence shows that adolescent cannabis use can affect brain development, memory, attention, and growth. One expert quoted in the article stressed that there is no completely safe time to use cannabis, but the greatest risk for overall harm remains in younger people, especially before age 25. The study has limitations. It did not examine the type or potency of cannabis products used. That matters because high-potency products and higher THC consumption are associated with greater risk of harm. It is also an association from observational studies, so unmeasured factors could contribute. But the consistency with earlier work strengthens the conclusion that cannabis use is linked to earlier psychosis onset for some people. Public health researchers are now calling for clearer warnings and stronger regulation of high-potency products. Some are particularly concerned that medicinal cannabis marketing in Australia has downplayed toxicity and made potent products easier to access. For viewers, the actionable point is not that cannabis affects everyone the same way. It is that delay, lower potency, and awareness of family mental health history may reduce some risks, and that early warning signs deserve attention. Work itself can be a health exposure, and not only because of how many hours you work. A University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign study examined data on more than 61,000 U.S. workers ages 18 to 64 from the current population survey. The researchers tracked self-rated health and month-to-month work hours over a 16-month period. They found that week-to-week volatility in work hours was associated with adverse health effects, but the pattern differed by gender. Among men who remained employed, greater fluctuations in work hours predicted a gradual decline in self-rated health, especially among those working longer weekly hours. The predicted probability of health deterioration rose from 28% with no changes in work hours to 38% with extremely large fluctuations. The probability of stable health declined from about 46% to 38%. The key finding was not about the absolute number of hours. According to the authors, stable 25-hour weeks and stable 40-hour weeks did not differ much on their volatility measure. The problem was the proportional ups and downs, 1 week up and the next week down. People can adjust to a total amount of change more easily than to sudden unpredictability. For women who remained employed, there were no clear patterns in self-rated health. But that changed when the researchers included people who reduced their hours, suspended work, or left employment for health-related reasons. Women were more likely to take those paths. Men tended to remain in their jobs while their health worsened, but women were more likely to exit or reduce their work. The researchers argue that many studies of work and health miss this group because they treat people who leave work for health reasons as dropouts rather than as an outcome. By following more than 61,000 workers and reintroducing people with health-related work limitations, the study makes those pathways visible. The study spans pre-pandemic, mid-pandemic, and post-pandemic years, which means it captures very different labor conditions. The data are observational, and self-rated health is subjective, but the gender difference has practical implications. If unstable schedules function as a population-level health risk, then schedule stability is not just a convenience, it is a workplace health issue. Employers could reduce harm by offering more predictable rosters, minimizing sudden hour changes, and accommodating health-related exits without stigma. Together, these 4 studies point in a similar direction. Childhood adversity may leave lasting marks on brain circuits that support pleasure. Autonomy over where you work and stable, predictable hours appear to protect well-being, while sudden schedule instability may erode it. Substance use, especially high-potency cannabis, may interact with age and cumulative exposure in ways that change when serious mental illness first appears. None of these findings is a complete causal chain, and all of them need replication and more precise measurement. But they challenge the idea that mental health is simply a matter of individual choices or isolated brain chemistry. The structures around people, the predictability of their work, the flexibility of their environment, and the timing of their exposures all seem to matter. The question worth asking is, if unpredictable schedules and low autonomy can harm health, should we treat schedule instability as a public health issue rather than just a business decision? Please subscribe for more daily science content.